so that our kids don't have to see her when she's older. She might be seeing mine pretty quick. No, I'm just kidding. But she is a really great girl. I know Kim from Bible study and from going to school with her, and I always joke with Kim that I'm a little bit scared of Kim. Because she will just tell you like it is, and it's a little bit scary when you know her, but that's what I love about Kim. She will just call you out. In a good way. In a good way. In a good way. But, so without further ado, here is Miss Kim Michell.
All right. So apparently I've pulled this mic close, which that's going to be tough. But yeah, my name is Kim. My last name is Michelle. So what happens most of the time is that people call me Kim Michelle for years, and then eventually say, "Well, what was your last name?" Well, you've been calling me the double South thing for years, and I just let you do it, and it causes embarrassment. So if you care, you can call me Kim, or you can call me Kim Michelle, but you're calling me by my first and my last name. I went from Kim Jones to Kim Michelle, so that was a long time ago, but it was like Melissa said, I am an adolescent counselor. I was second string. I don't know who you were supposed to have, but I wanted to help my friend out. I was like, holy smoke, you know, my kids are 18 and 22, so I have been out of your realm for a little bit, and I was a little nervous. And so anytime I'm a little nervous, the first thing I do is go to God. So I don't know, have you all already prayed? Do you mind if I pray again? Father, thank you so much for your spirit that gives us power, Father God, and loves us. You love us so very well. Thank you for being our dad, and that we can come to you with anything. And especially we can come to you with our kids, Father, and what to do with them. So I just pray, Lord, that my words are yours, and if anything comes out that's not of you, just let it fall on deaf ears. We love you. I trust you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so anyway, can you hear me if I just talk really loud? Okay, no. Oh, okay. Like, y'all are not old enough, but TVs used to have antennas. Okay, and so, right, okay, so some of you might be old enough, well, so you kind of had to like do this sometimes, like, with the tin foil, exactly. So it looks like Melissa. Oh, look, she rigged it. Okay, so, well, hopefully that'll work. All right, well, so it is true. Hopefully something that I will say will put your family in a position where your kids don't have to come see me when they're teenagers, okay? Now, I say that, but my kids go to counseling, and I'm a counselor. So in and out of that, we kind of go in and out of that as we need, because I'm the best person to understand that we don't have it all together and we need help. And so when I get to that point, I'm very quick to offer that as an opportunity, usually tied to some type of consequence if that's not what they choose. So, for instance, my son, let's see, he's a senior this year, and he decided that he's a senior, so he was going to skip class. But I'm like, I get the phone call. I don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, so I get the phone call. I'm like, dude, you know I get the phone call. And he's like, no, I went. I was like, dude, okay, so I'll write the teacher and be like, where are you? And so I tell the teacher's like, no, he wasn't there. I was like, see, now look, this is such a great opportunity for you. You get to go to 6 sessions with Dale Goodman, which some of you might have met at the marriage seminar thing. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And I said to his dad, who does a lot of our communication, tell him that he can go to 6 or he can go to 12. Either one, I don't care. And so obviously he chose 6. So, you know, all of the communication has to go through my husband because he's a teenage boy. When he sees me, he sees mommy, and you can imagine that doesn't work out very well. If you have sons, this is totally not even on my notes. If you have sons, please know that once they hit a certain point in their life, they need their dad, you are annoying. It's not personal. It's absolutely not personal, okay? But it is true. There's a story about elephants. I don't know if you know this, but elephants apparently, when they hit puberty, they ooze out this green slime stinky stuff. And they're raised in a pack of women, and when the stinky stuff starts to come, then the women kick him out, and he's on his own. But the great thing is that a man elephant will come and pick him up, smell the smell, and like take him. And then the man elephant raises him for the rest of the time. Isn't that weird? Right. Okay, well, so there it is. What I hope for you today is that you will begin to see things out of looking at a big picture. That's my hope. That's the way I always have parented, because I have a bend towards adolescence, and even when my kids were little, I still couldn't wait till they were adolescents, and then I thought, I've lost my mind when they got there. But there was a time when my daughter was 4, and it was really the first time that she really got in trouble. She was a pretty submissive kid. She followed me. I didn't have to put all this, the safety gates. She was pretty much with me. And she started to get a little attitude around 4. I don't know what changed there. Anyway, I put her in timeout, and she turned around and she... Okay. So, I was like... Okay. Now, this was before, I need y'all to know a couple of things. There's a pre knowing the Lord and a post knowing the Lord. What you see today is the post. A lot of what I'm going to tell you is the pre. Okay? So I'm not saying do this. I'm sharing my journey, because I'm no different than you and I make mistakes. So what I did was I went up to her and I proceeded to squeeze the cheeks all the way together. And I was nose to nose with her about that. And we had a little discussion there, and that was her first spanking. So I was telling my friend about it later, and she thought it was funny. And I said, okay, well, let's look at the bigger picture for a minute. She's 4. She gives me this. What does that look like when she's 13, do you think, if I don't stop that? Yeah, she's going to flip me the bird. Because that was a 4-year-old flip the bird. Let's be for real. That's exactly what she did. And so if I didn't think about it in the big picture and I allowed that, and I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cute and whatever, I'm going to end up with an uncontrollable teenager. So I really, really, really want to encourage you, when you see behavior, think about the bigger picture and what that might look like when they are 13, 14, 15, and they're a little bit more difficult at that age. Okay, so that's the first premise. Has anybody ever said, calm down, to you? Okay, how do you respond when somebody says that? You get more angry. You get fired up. That's exactly right. That's what I do. And why do you think that happens? Somebody's trying to control you. They don't understand, right? There's a lot of reasons. For me, I don't like to be controlled, and plus I probably think that I have some kind of entitlement to be mad or to vent my anger however I see fit. So if you're trying to tell me how to do that, you're going to tick me off. Okay. But what I want to say to you today is that it is our job not to have somebody else calm us down, but to calm ourselves down. Okay? So there's a couple things that I really want to talk about today. When I do parenting seminars, I generally do not talk about the kids. Ever. So I'm not going to give you an ABC 1, 2, 3, do this parenting technique, do that, put them in timeout, do da. I never do that. Because it really is a trickle down. What I'm going to tell you today is 3 things. 1, you got to focus on yourself. I know immediately I've lost 3/4 of you. But I don't necessarily mean pamper. I do think you need to take care of yourself like that, but focus on yourself. I'm going to get into that a little bit. You need to calm yourself down, and you need to grow yourself up. We need to become emotionally mature human beings in order to raise children. First and foremost, that is our job. Okay? It's more important than timeout or not timeout, or spank or don't spank, or whatever it is that you all got going in your life and you're trying to figure out. Okay? Being the best person, that you can be the best emotionally healthy person, is your most important job when it comes to parenting, bar none. You cannot convince me otherwise. All that other stuff is part of that. Because if you're not emotionally healthy, if you're not taking care of your emotional business, if you're not self-aware, which we're going to talk about later, You're going to be doing all kinds of stuff that you never intended to do, and you don't even know why you're doing it. Okay? So I really, really, really want y'all to get that. Okay, so here's the thing. If we think, well, it depends on how you see parenting. Okay, so your perspective on everything is going to affect how you approach it. So your perspective, how you think parenting should go, what do you think it is going to affect how you're actually going to be a parent. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're looking at parenting properly. And for me, that's from a very godly perspective. God is the ultimate dad, right? He's our father. When we were born again, we received him as our dad. He adopted us, right? And it's his job to provide for us and protect us, prove us, position us, and give us his power, period. But the problem is that we try to do all of that mess for ourselves, and then we fail miserably, okay? Because we're not letting him be our dad. We're not receiving the adoption. We still act like we're orphans. So the first thing with parenting, part of growing yourself up and calming yourself down is going to be having to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I don't think there's another way to do that. I haven't found one. It's the only thing that's worked for me. But if you think that parenting is about getting your children to behave, right, to do the right things, that's your job, you're going to live in utter frustration, basically, the whole time, right? Does anybody in here ever have or have now a 2-year-old? Okay. So you know that the 2-year-old, as I saw Emily Grace running out from the Bible study, love her, but she was like a bullet.
I know.
And you're like, Emily Grace! No, Emily Grace! And Emily Grace is like, shh! She got it. And I was like, Lord, protect that child when she gets to the parking lot. Because you got Anderson and he ain't really want to go that fast. I love him. But it's perfect. I mean, Emily Grace really didn't care what Blair had to say. Because Emily Grace has a mind of her own, as do all 2-year-olds, right? Me, I do it. No, me. You know, it's very independent. Well, it's not unlike a teenager. So just know that whatever your kid looks like when they're 2, 3, that's what they're going to look like when they're 14, 15. Hey. So anyway, if you think your job is to try to control them, it's going to be a miserable existence for you because you can't. Every 2-year-old has a mind of their own. Every person was created with free will. We have it, they have it. It doesn't just start when you're adults. You have free will when you're little, okay? The only control that you have over your children is what they choose to give you. Period. Now, if they choose not to give you control and they choose the wrong way, you do have a choice. I'm not saying let your kids run wild because I said go pick up your toys and they said no. And so you're like, oh, well, they won't do it. No, that is not what I'm talking about. I do not want y'all raising a bunch of brats that nobody can stand to be around. Because I've been around those children. Okay? And it's not fun. So y'all do need to parent your kids. But what I'm going to tell you is there's a way to do that that's emotionally healthy, that will create relationship and will allow you to have influence. So let me explain. Our job is to not be responsible for your children. Okay, now that's a shocking statement. You're not responsible for your children. You're like, well, then who is? Okay, let me explain. You're not responsible for your children, but you are responsible to your children. Okay, so you're not responsible for their behavior. Okay, even the best kid can thwart the best obedience training in the world. Okay. So if you have one that's not naturally submissive, they're definitely going to jack your plan. So what I want to say is, so you're not responsible for what they do. What you are responsible to them is for how you respond to their precious little free will. How you respond to their precious free will. That's what you're responsible to them. What I hope is that you all are interested in having a relationship all the way through and not having the perfect kid. It's very difficult in this area where we live not to try to pursue having our children perform at the highest level, right? Because even the, what was that commercial? I want to say Primrose or one of those preschool daycare kind of deals. was talking in their commercial is, we can build the foundation for college. I was like, have you lost your mind? I told my husband, I said, do you hear this? These people are actually telling parents, and I know there's some of y'all buying into that if you send your child to this certain place, that your child is going to be ready for college. What? That's ridiculous. But we're buying into it because that's the message that the world is always sending to us. Get your child ready. I mean, we're starting that in 2nd grade. You don't learn to do your homework, you're never going to get into good college. Not true. Not true. If we are in pursuit of that high performance, if we find ourselves in that trap, what that will buy you is frustration, anxiety, feelings of being overwhelmed. And when we get to those spots, how do we react? How do you react? Lash out. What does that look like? Yelling. What else? Threatening.
Crying.
Saying hurtful things. Crying. What about avoidance? Bargaining. Manipulation. Withholding of love. Walking avoid. None of those are going to create the relationship that you're looking for, that's going to withstand till your kids are grown. See, here's the deal. Everything that we're doing is creating the relationship with our kids for when they're older. I want my kids to want to be friends with me. Now, here's the deal. I took my daughter, who at the time was in college. She was a sophomore or a junior, so she was, kind of older, and it was really time for us to be friends. Okay? I made it very clear all the way through, look, I'm not your friend. I'm not going to try to be your friend, so too bad. Well, but now she was, 20. So I'm like, it's time to be friends. So we go to New York. I take her with me. I done a women's retreat up at Brooklyn for the women of Brooklyn Tabernacle. We went up there. We went to their Christmas show, blah, blah, blah. But my perception of what was going to happen over the weekend, my expectation was that we were going to become friends. So I start out the weekend with this heartfelt conversation about being friends. Okay? Now, what you'll understand from my daughter and I's relationship, we were in constant conflict. Constant. So here I am throwing down, okay, so Morgan, I'm so glad we're here. And what I want to do is I want to be friends with you. So let's pretend like we're friends. And she looked at me and she's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's what she said. Verbatim. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, so we, had some words. And I thought, well, this isn't going to work. And we literally proceeded to fight the entire time we were in New York. The last day we're walking down Times Square, and it was super windy, and there's a bunch of people, and we were literally screaming at each other. But nobody can really hear us because it's so windy and there's so many people. But we are like screaming at each other walking down Times Square. This is what I'm talking about. I didn't even want to be your friend anyway. That's what's coming out my mouth. Okay. But the goal is to have a better ending than that. Now, she did say this year, she said, Mom, I really want to agree. Because we are actually getting to the point where we can be friends now. So that's awesome. So let me tell you a story other than that with Morgan when she was younger. I was loving the Lord at this time, but I didn't understand how to invite him into my parenting yet. Okay, now I was doing parenting seminars at the time, so let's be clear about this. So Morgan is and was a great girl as far as a lot of things, right? She was kind, teachers loved her, she did her homework, she wasn't boy crazy, she didn't do drugs and alcohol, she was friends with a small group at church. They colored on the weekends in their coloring book before the coloring book got real trendy and popular. They literally took the Disney coloring book and they would go and spend the night and do color. I mean, precious. So very far from who I was. So I was very happy for that. I felt like that was really the grace of God. The problem was, in our house, she was super, super disrespectful. People could not believe when I would say some of the things that were happening in our house. I mean, it just didn't match up with her outerwear at all. So I was cooking dinner. I'm getting ready to go to a parenting seminar. I'm a little bit hurried. And I cook dinner and I'm stirring, and she starts to run her mouth about something. I say, no, I can't do that right now. You got to go. Like literally, I can't. You need to stop. You're being disrespectful. Right? Morgan, listen, I'm serious. You've got to back up off me. I got a million things to do. You're being disrespectful. I'm not talking to you. You're not talking to me like that. We're not doing that. That was one of her biggest deals. Is she was a boundary buster. Okay, a boundary buster, which she now understands what that is. Every time I would say that before, she didn't really get it. So she's busting my boundary that I'm setting for her, and I just was not in the mood. And so I'm stirring the thing, and I turn around because she comes up on me, and I take it's a wooden spoon, and I take that spoon, shamm! She's 15. Now, just in case anybody's wondering, that's way past the age of spanking. We're way past the age of spanking. It's funny now. It was not funny then. It was devastating. I was devastated. I was so disappointed at myself and sad, and I had wounded her, and I knew that, and I was out of control, and I was not calm, and I did not handle that, and you can't take that back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I jacked that. I jacked it pretty good. And so there were so many situations where that was happening. It really affected my ability to influence her. It affected her willingness to be friends with me when it came time. That's why she was like, I don't, that's stupid, like, I don't want to be your friend. Because of my inability to calm myself down over the years, and I'm a counselor, right? Like, I should totally know how to do that. I mean, I had to go to the parenting seminar right after I spanked my 15-year-old daughter, and the only thing I could think of was to stand up and say, I'm here to talk to you about parenting, and I suck, and I just hit my 15-year-old daughter with a spoon, and so I don't really know why God has me standing up here to do this, because I'm no different and no better, and I don't know anything. But he's telling me to stand up because Satan started telling me, sit down. Are you serious? Are you really going to go to this parenting seminar? And I was like, God, am I really going to go do this parenting seminar? Yeah, you're really going to go do it. Okay, I'll do it. That's what I ended up with. It ended up being a great thing because I think when I shared my struggle, they were like, oh, well, she's messed up too. Like, she's not perfect. I can tell her my stuff. Okay, so responsible for your children, no. Responsible to your children, yes. That's the only way you're going to retain a position of influence. That's what you want to do more than anything, is be able to influence your children. If you're thinking big picture, control is what happens when you're little. You're the manager. You're saying, get your shoes. Did you brush your teeth? You know, for my son, did you actually wash your hair in the shower? Come let me smell it. You're 10. No, you did not wash your hair. Get back in there. You know, like, you're constantly, did you get your homework? Did you get your, you know, mouthpiece? Did you know, whatever it is that they're doing, did you manage all of that? So you're barking out a lot of orders, and so there's a lot of controlling when they're little, and I get that. Like, I'm not saying don't do that, but when they don't go with your plan, you have to learn how to settle down, calm yourself down, and grow yourself up. I want you to repeat something after me. Well, I'm going to say it first, and then you can decide if you want to say it. How about that? I don't want you to say anything you don't have any intention of doing. We're responsible for our children. No. That was wrong. We are responsible to our children for how we behave, regardless of how they behave. Okay, so I want you to repeat after me. I am responsible to my child for how I behave, regardless of how they behave. Just because they're misbehaving doesn't mean Mama gets to misbehave. It's common. It's common. They're throwing a temper tantrum, we think we can throw a temper tantrum, and then everybody's stirred up. Everybody's stirred up. That doesn't work. Your house will be full of chaos and confusion and conflict, and it doesn't work very well when you're living like that. You can't avoid some of that, but I'm just saying if we can grow ourselves up and calm ourselves down, we're going to be in a better place to handle the kids when they're misbehaving, okay? So think about a remote control. All right, so remote control, what's it do? Turns the TV on, turns it off, turns the volume up, changes the channel, turns it down. So if your idea of parenting is, go clean your room, you think, I'll just do that. And then they say, no. Or they don't listen to you, or they don't respond to you, but they don't go clean their room or pick up their toys. If you spin up, basically what you're doing is you're giving them your remote, and you're saying, okay, you're in control of me now, because your behavior is spinning me up. And they're just pushing the button, and you're... Here's the hard part. If you live by the remote, ladies, you're going to die by the remote. This isn't parenting at all. This isn't even how it's supposed to work. It's not how God does us. We're not supposed to do our children like that. He's not barking out orders at us, right? At all. He's wanting us to understand who we are, that we are His, right? That we are His children, that the church is our family, that He's our dad, that He cares for us, that we can trust Him, that He protects us, that He'll provide for us, that He'll make a way, that He's sovereign, that He navigates us all the time. He makes a way. That's what we want to be teaching our children. If you're just thinking you can push and then they're going to jump, you are a miserable human being until they leave your house. And then you probably have no relationship with them. They don't want to come home. And that's when you really want them. You know, like, I actually kind of like you now. And you don't really like me now. And I don't like that like that. You know, so we have to be very careful that we don't consider parenting to be the remote control thing. And that we have to understand, I'm just watching my time. We have the capacity to do it differently and to not expect this. Now, I'm not saying don't tell your children what to do. Please do not hear me. I'm telling you, I'm not about to brag. Listen, tell your kids what they need to do, but when they don't do it, let's have a plan for how we're going to react and respond to that. Because even if they're misbehaving, remember, we just all made a promise that we're not going to misbehave, that we can handle that in a way that's godly and that we can maintain our influence over them. So we're talking to them. We're giving them consequences, but it's calm. We're calm. Because we don't have an expectation that they're just going to do it, because we understand that they have free will. And they're exercising that free will, especially a 2-year-old. I'm telling you, that's when they first begin to separate from you, right? They begin to first understand that they're different from you, that they're not attached to you. So they create this independence, which is painful as a parent, because we really do just want them to stay on target. But they're trying to figure out who they are and what they're going to do and what their little mind wants to do. So it's tough. And again, it looks like that again when they're teenagers, because they want that independence. They want to do it themselves. They don't want you up in their business. I got this. I got that from my son this morning. I mean, I'm still getting that. He's 18. We're having carpet laid, which is a total conundrum because they didn't even show up. And I got 5 people staying at my house on Monday. And my carpet people are not there. But anyway, so he didn't do all his stuff that he was supposed to do. Okay, so because you pretty much got to pack up your house. Okay, I didn't know that. It's been a long time since I got carpet laid and did the whole upstairs, and so like you literally have to dog sit me. Anyway, so his room was undone. I give him, like I said, look, at the beginning of the week, I wrote him a little note. It has to be done by Friday. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's got trophies, blah, blah, blah. And I go in, and he didn't have it done. My husband was supposed to remind him he didn't get it done, so I go in there, I'm like, dude, this is supposed to be done. He's like, I thought you said Friday night. I said, yeah, but for the other 2, but this one was supposed to be done in the morning. We've been talking to you about the carpet layers coming. Okay, so he gets busy, right? He doesn't say anything. He's fine. So I start to kind of help him. I'm folding up, I'm going to just help a few things, right? Like I'm just doing. And so I say, hey, you know that the stuff on the chair has to go down. Here's what he said. Really, Mom? Really? You think that that's what's supposed to happen? I said, okay. I put the blanket, the sweatshirts, whatever I had in my hand, I said, that's not the way this world works. I'm going to go take a shower. I wasn't mad. I wanted to punch him on the inside, but I didn't let that come out. I stayed calm. I calmed myself down, right? And I just went in the shower and I didn't feel bad. He needs to understand that when you talk to people poorly, they're not going to want to help you. Okay? And I'm not a piece of dirt that needs to be talked to like that. But I didn't go into all that and go into a 15-minute thing and give him the lecture and do all that. I was like, okay, that's not the way this is going to work. Put the stuff down on the bed. I said, I'm going to go take a shower. He said, why don't you help me anyway? I was done. But you got to see that wasn't avoidance. I made a conscious decision. I was not just avoiding him. I was saying to myself, he needs to learn a lesson that it doesn't work like this in life. If you talk poorly to somebody, they're not going to help you, generally, unless they're codependent. Unless you're codependent. Okay, so listen, when we got this remote thing going, right, and we're remoting and then they're pushing it back at us, basically what I want y'all to understand is that what you're telling your children is that you have to be responsible for calming me down. You're responsible. And if you don't do what I say, then I won't calm down. So the only way that I'm going to calm down is if you do what I say. That's giving your child total power over your emotions. And it's very manipulative. It's very manipulative. That's not the kind of parenting that we want to do. We have to calm ourselves down. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that, because I think there's 3 things that we really have to do in order to do this. Okay, the first thing we have to be self-aware. So again, I'm not giving you the 1, 2, 3 of the technique and the best idea of how to do behavior modification, because behavior modification is just that. There's nothing under the surface of that, right? When they go to college, if all you've done is control behavior, you're going to have, or you have the opportunity to have a child who's off the chain, because all you've been dealing with is their behavior. There is something that drives every choice and every behavior that we have. There's an energy that drives it. We got to look under there to find out what's really happening. So if your kid is doing the same thing over and over again, I would suggest you try to look underneath. What's happening? What are we feeling? What are we thinking? What's going on? Right? So self-aware. So what's going on with me? You're in a situation with your kid. You're having a struggle. What's going on? Did I have an expectation that I shouldn't have had? Because when we have unmet expectations, that means anger. Right off the bat, anger, disappointment. If we have a disappointment, we need to look back and see what was our expectation. Right? It's kind of a circular thing. So you want to be self-aware. What's happening with me? Let me tell you a story. Because I was having so much trouble with Morgan, we were just in constant battle. It was so hard. It was just, I really didn't like her, frankly, and it was really hard for me to know that. I just didn't like her as a human being. I loved her, she was my kid, but I didn't like her. And so when it was time for her to go to college, I was like, deuces, like I really care. And I was sad about that. And all the other moms were like, oh, I miss my daughter so much. And I got because I was like, I just want her to leave. Like, I'm happy that she's leaving. Like, she spins everything up every day, all day, like this. And it was I felt such guilt and shame. It was horrible. But here's what was happening. So she was very disrespectful. Like I said, great kid, but very disrespectful. And so when she was disrespectful, I would just bow up. Oh my gosh, you can just know a little bit about my personality, but you can imagine that it can be big. And so I would bow up with her, and I would become aggressive with her, and I would get in her bubble, and I would be face to face with her. And I was doing some of the same thing that my dad was doing with me, and I hated that. And I kept saying to myself, why do we keep ending up here? I know this is not where I want to be, and every time I let myself get to the same spot, there is a pattern. If there's a pattern in your life of how you're behaving, if you keep seeing yourself reacting in the same way, please talk to somebody. Get underneath, figure it out. What are the lies that you're believing? What's happening? Please get under there, because that's not going to go away on its own. So anyway, long story short, I had to go to counseling because I was like, I keep ending up here. I do not know what is causing this. I've got to figure it out. This is horrible. I am wrecking my relationship with my daughter, and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I think. I don't understand what's happening. Long story short, what I realized through the counseling and through doing the pathways tools that I use with people that I work with is that from a very young age, my father was all about performance, and my value with him came from my performance, and particularly if I bowled well. I know it's weird. We were a bowling family, okay? So when I was in kindergarten, I started bowling, and he would give me a rubber ball to squeeze at night so that I could throw with one hand instead of two. It was like serious. But he was just a little man. He was only 5'4", and so that was kind of his sport and where he got his value, and so it became where we got our value too. And so everybody's bowling, and we're all bowling. When we would bowl, and if we didn't bowl well, he would be so angry, and it was just so very obvious to me, even as a young child, although I wasn't understanding this at the time. I have to do it as I look back, is that he loved me if I bowled well because he was happy and he would talk to me and it would be great. But if I didn't bowl well, he would turn his back on me. He would yell, and it was horrible. And so my response, instead of allowing the Lord, I didn't know the Lord at the time, so I mean, I guess I have a little bit of an excuse, but my response to that was to be the defiant one. Okay, so from a very early age, when I felt unloved or insignificant, I was going to bow up with you, and that's what I did with him. I'm going to hurt you, you can't hurt me. I'll hurt you first. And that's how I became who I was. And over time, I would have told you, even in high school, that's just me. I was mean. Well, you didn't want to get on my bad side. Because I'll fight you. Like, there were several fist fights in Kim Michelle's life. But it was because that's how I responded. That's who I thought I was. That became my identity, right? Like, if I feel unloved or insignificant, I'm not going to shrink down like my sister. Some of y'all might know her, Christy Lesniak. She goes to this church. Love her, but her response was completely different. She was the people pleaser, the try hard, the do better, the all of that. So we had a completely different response. So my whole life, it started with my father, but it carried over to my teachers. And I hit my second grade teacher, smacked her right in the middle of circle time. Third grade teacher, called her by her first name, and now it's going to my friends. And I was in Catholic school when this was going on. Like I had this whole thing where it just became my response. And I thought that's who I was. Well, so when that started happening with Morgan, I was doing the same thing I didn't understand. I had to go to counseling. I had to dig down under there. I had to understand what was happening. So when I realized that it was I was feeling her disrespect towards me was making me feel insignificant and unloved, and that I was protecting myself by like being aggressive with her and being mean, I guess. I mean, one time I called her you can't stick that back in there. So through all of that, I got to go to her, and I got down on my knee. She was sitting in a chair. I got down on my knee, and I said, "Will you please forgive me? Here's what's going on." And she was like, "I think it's a bigger deal to you than me." And I thought, here I was, like, I'm going to do this thing. Anyway, I didn't do it for her. I did it because the Lord said go. But now what's happened is, because I have understand that, here's what I can do. I can get that, when I get that rage, and I still get it today. It's not like it doesn't come up just because I know what it is. It still comes up. But I can say, I know what that is, and I can do it differently, and I can respond differently. And here's what I tell myself. I don't need her to love me. I don't need her to value me or to think I'm significant, because guess what? My Heavenly Father thinks I am awesome. And I have value and significance, and he thinks I'm the apple of his eye. And so if she doesn't give it to me, I don't have to respond like that. I can calm myself down and grow myself up. I can react differently. And I can just talk to her. Because when I need something from her, when you need something from your children, when you need them to provide for you some kind of emotional assistance, you need them to love you. You need them to think you're awesome. You need them to obey. You need that, and you're desperate for that. You are going to lose your mind in some kind of way. Period. We cannot need anything from our children. We don't need anything from them because we have everything that we need from our Heavenly Father. We lack nothing. We lack nothing. We have everything. So when you look to your kids, that's when you're going to find pain, to feel something, to meet your significance. Anything outside of God cannot meet your significance, cannot answer the questions of significance for you. And if you try, you will find pain, and that's it. So if you're feeling pain, look under there. What am I trying to get met? What am I looking for? What is it? They can't give it to me. I got to figure out what it is so I can tell myself the truth and do it different. The second thing, so after self-awareness, that's the first thing we need. We need self-direction. How do I need to respond? What do I need to do? Do I need to give them a choice? Do I need to give them a consequence? Do I need to say, hey, listen, that's not okay. I don't know exactly what your consequence is going to be, but I'm going to get back to you on that. Right? Because that's okay. That whole thing that Dr. Spock and all them people used to tell y'all that you have to give an immediate consequence, that is not true. That's absolutely not true. Your 2-year-old can remember, please. If you need to seek wise counsel, get it. Don't lose your mind and give some consequence that's ridiculous and it doesn't even have anything to do with what they're doing, right? Take some time, pray about it, ask the Lord, hey God, you're the ultimate dad. What in the heck should I do? I have no idea. I don't know. I'm out. I got nothing. And he'll tell you. He will tell you. If you are a born again Christian, then he wants to speak to you. He wants to have a relationship for you. He wants to guide you. He's the ultimate father. He knows the best thing. He knows what to do in every situation. There's nothing that's hidden from him. He gets it. He sees the whole picture. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He's it, right? Like he knows. He knows what's coming. He knows where you've been. He knows all of it. Ask him. He'll tell you. And then the last thing is the willingness to take personal responsibility. When you give somebody your remote control, you got to go back and be like, hey, Mommy didn't react very well, and so we're going to do that different, and I'm sorry. Because, that's what you want for your kids, right? When your kids make a mistake, and we're all going to make mistakes every day. I don't know about you, but I make multiple ones every single day, all day, pretty much. I have to repent. I have to say, okay, God, I need to see this differently so I don't do the same thing. The only way that you can repent is to change your mind. That's actually what the actual word means, is to have a change of outlook. You have to change how you think about it. If you don't change how you think about it and you just try to change your behavior and you whiten up to that for a while, that's just for a minute. You're not going to be able to keep that up because you have to change how you think about it. That's really what repenting is. So a lot of times in the church they say turn from one thing, but it's like the only way you're going to keep turning is if you change how you think about it. So see what am I thinking about this situation? What is it and what do I need to do? And when I jack it up, I need to say, listen, I messed that up. Mommy's going to do better next time. I'm going to think about it, or whatever you say to a 2-year-old, because I can't remember. Okay. I think we have just a few minutes for questions. I'm going to end it there because it's 11:30. But I do want to give you all time if you have questions for me. If they're about 2-year-olds, I'll do the best I can. Does anybody have a question about what I said, or a different question?
It's specific to my 4.5-year-old.
4.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he doesn't listen to what he's told to do, and then you try and tell him what he needs to do.
When he doesn't listen, you try to tell him what he needs to do.
And then you try and give the consequence.
You try to give the consequence.
And then, no, jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Saying, no.
Yeah.
And then doing anything you can to not hear what I'm saying.
Not to hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that?
Explore
How
it.
do you get him to hear what you're saying? Without keeping his mouth shut and pulling it. He'll literally put his hands in his ears.
Right.
And say, there's something in my ear, Mom.
Yeah. Yes.
It's only at
Lord.
home. As far
Right.
as I know, he's very respectful.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think probably I asked the Lord for wisdom, so I'm not saying this says the Lord, but I got a 2-way going here. I would say that there's some anxiety about what's the big deal about getting in trouble. Everybody gets in trouble. We're not going to do things right? So that anxiety of I'm in trouble. Oh my gosh. Like maybe we can relieve a little bit of that anxiety when you're not in the middle of giving him a consequence, right? Like Dylan or whatever your name is, looking him in the eye, right? And be like, we just need to have a conversation. Sometimes when you get in trouble, it seems like you get really scared or anxious. I don't know if you could name the feeling. This is always a good thing to teach your children how to name their feelings so you can have a real conversation with them. Scared, I don't know, whatever it is, but you know what, it's okay. Right? What happens and put this in a 4.5, somebody's going to have to help me translate. When it's okay to be in trouble, you're going to be in trouble. Mommy does wrong things, I get in trouble. Daddy does wrong things, he gets in trouble. You know, like we do things, and so it's okay. So next time when you're in trouble, it'll be better if you just listen, right? You don't gotta put your hands in your ear. We don't have to do this because it's okay. Like, trouble just means that you have an opportunity to do it different. Can a 4.5 understand any of that, or can you help her put that into 4.5 language? Okay. Because that's what I think you have it's the root. It's not the behavior. What's under there? Why is that reaction? Why is he running around? Why is he saying I can't hear you? Because he's nervous about the trouble thing. He thinks it's something bigger than maybe what it is. Maybe there's been a bad reaction and somebody's like went off the chain, right, and screaming out or whatever. I'm not saying. Okay. So that might, so mommy's going to do it different, and I'm going to try to talk to you. If you have your hands in your ears, you won't be able to hear me. So I'm going to talk quiet, but that's part of it, part of life. It's okay to be in trouble. And then if he doesn't, you're just going to have to give him, you're going to have to, it's like, dude, you're either going to have to listen, or when you calm down, you're going to get your punishment. Or I hate that word. I don't even know where that came from. I never use that word. Consequence. Right? Like, I can wait for you to calm down, but when you calm down, I'm going to give you a consequence. Because if he's using it to avoid and it works, then he's going to keep using it. It's a strategy. Right. Right, so you know what? Let him. When you calm down, I'll give it to you. If it takes him an hour to listen, you got nothing more important to do than parent your child. Right? There's nothing more important. That's hard for us to remember, but that's the truth. So if it takes him an hour to settle down and you run around the house and you go about your business. Right? Eventually he'll get tired and you can be like, okay, I'm glad that you're calm now. We need to talk about it. Okay.
Thank you.
I have something to add. Grace does that to me. She's 5. She's trying to make me go over the edge. Yeah. Trying to push my button.
Yeah, she's remote control.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll be even better when she's
Awesome. She's trying to push me over. So I'm trying to keep this calm.
Calm yourself down, grow yourself up. If you can remember nothing else I said, please remember those words.
I'll fast forward 10 years. My son's 14. You may know him, Bryce. He's around here. How do you walk the line of not being their friend, who's a good parent,
Yep.
but also keeping the line of communication open so they will talk to you? So
Absolutely.
you know what's going on, especially for boys, because they,
Right. They are tight-lipped. My son is a man of few words.
right.
Well, you give consequences when necessary, but you do it calmly. And the most important thing is talking about other things. Don't always get caught up in the business of life. We as moms get caught up in the business of life. Did you turn this paper in? Did you do that? When are you going here? What about that? And that's that mommy thing that he doesn't want any part of you on that. Right? So a lot of that stuff, mostly everything I sent through my husband. I also had to find something that we could enjoy, so I started watching. My son is a big sports guy. So I started watching TMZ Sports. So I got to gossip about all the sports guys. They're like, hey, you hear about Lamar Odom, man? He's like, he was in a brothel, and so that's my conversation with him, because I don't really know about sports enough, but I can talk to you about people. And so I was making sure that I was having conversations with outside of the business. Please find a way to do that, but also know that the very sight of you can be very annoying. So it's a slow and go. You got to check and see. You got to go in there, slide in there for a minute, see what the mood is, and if it ain't good, try it again. There was days I didn't speak to my son because of where he was, and I knew that he was trying to separate from me. And the only way that he knew how to do that was stab me in the heart. And so I explained that to him on one occasion, because I was asking him some questions and he was not giving me the answers, just like I want to know. I want to know you, because that's such a big deal to me, and my children both use that against me. That was their power trip for me. They so knew I wanted to know that they would withhold. Okay. And so it got ugly in the car, and I was driving him I was picking him up from school. I was driving him to swimming, so I drove him. I went to the swimming. I turned around. I came back. I went about a mile back. I dropped him off at a strip mall. I said, listen, get your swim bag and go ahead and take your backpack, which is about 50 pounds full of books. And I said, you can walk to swimming, And I said, if I'm not there at 6:30, you're invited to walk home, which is about 5 miles. And so I went home and I was crying, and I called a friend and I was like, look, I need to process this. This is horrible. Like, this didn't go good. So I went back and picked him up and I explained to him that. Like, dude, I just want to know you. And you're trying to separate from me, and I get that, but you don't have to stab me in the heart to do that. Like, there's a way. Like, I'm not like this. I want you to fly. I want you. I think you're very capable. I think you're going to be an awesome man. Like, you're so good. I'm like this, but I think you think I'm like this, and I'm not. So we had to have a conversation, and he was like, I'm sorry, and it was great, and he has had a much better understanding. And yet I gave a lot to my husband at that time, just because of where he was at. All discipline and all conversations like that went through my husband, and so I was able to just be fun mom. So I think try making sure that you have a relationship outside of business.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I really struggle with liking my daughter.
Yeah,
She's 7.
struggle with liking your daughter. She's 7.
She's been difficult when she's 2.
Yep.
In fact, Trina will tell you, she actually slammed the door in her face several years ago.
Yeah.
And I hauled off, took the door off the hinges, said, okay, you're gonna act like you're 14, I'm gonna treat you like you're 14.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just wondering, like, what do you do with that? I mean, I obviously feel guilty that I don't like her.
Right, it's a horrible
How
feeling.
she treats me and
Yeah.
how she treats my son.
Yeah.
She's okay with that, but she's disrespectful to me,
Uh-huh.
she beats up on him. And it's,
There's something happening. There's something underneath here that you're not understanding, right? There's some belief that she has, some lie that she believes, some struggle, and it could be now, like what happened with my daughter was, because we had so many bad interactions, even when I would try to have a good one, she filtered everything through the wounding, through all the wounding. So think about it like a colander or something. And so I would pour the water in, and it would go through the wounding, and out would come green no matter what. I mean, I could have said, we're going to Disney World. And she would have been like, what? I don't want to go to Disney World. And then she'd be like, huh? But her first instinct was always the disrespect, was to always be against me no matter what I was saying. It was so frustrating. Sometimes, if it's been going on for a long time, you might need some outside help to kind of dig around in here. I would suggest that you and your husband do that together. If your daughter needs to be invited in, she can. She might not either. Because it might be a way that you're parenting and the way that you're parenting her that doesn't really work for her. And you might need to have somebody say, kind of walk through that with you and say from the outside that doesn't have a dog in the fight, that's not emotional about it, right? That's not, there's no stigma in that. That's a good thing. That's being a good parent. When you say, listen, we have a struggle and I don't know what this is and it's only going to continue to get worse once she hits puberty, let's be proactive. Let's figure out, if your child had a school problem, an academic problem, you would do the same. There should be no different when we're dealing with emotional problems with our kids, please. If there's an emotional problem in our house and we see patterns and we can't figure out what's happening, please go and invite somebody in that knows what they're doing. Let them speak into it. Let them help you kind of figure out what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, you should be more jacked if you don't do that, because you're letting the worldly stigma tell you it's not okay.
I've got 4 girls and they're stair-stepped, so say prayers. But my 7-year-old came home 2 days ago. Very, very sweet kid. I think she's probably more likely to be the people pleaser of the crew. But she just came home with just snot-nosed attitude, just being, I mean, everything was magnified, responses and that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to sort out at what point, because these are girls, essentially, I feel like my brain's in a blender and they're pushing smoothie and puree all day long. At what point do you, with girls, what point do you stop being, the trying to fill all their needs, versus them giving them a little bit more independence
Now,
Okay.
independence in that, you want to offer your kids the opportunity to do whatever they're capable of, right? So when you say filling all their needs, that's going to be a super big red flag for me, because you can't do that. Right now, you can teach them, you can do some things that they cannot do, right? But even at a young age, you're gonna be having conversations, and if she's gets home from school and she's freaking out and she's not really like that, I would say to like, not right then, but like, what's going on? Like, maybe there's something happening at school and she's holding it together at school, but home is safe, and so she comes home and she's like,
Yeah, and it was something at home, or it was at school that she was just projecting on us, but I was just kind of wondering, you know, how do you respond, you know, making that transition from, you know, being, you know, always, you know, being there to hug them when they fall down versus kind of coming alongside them and just listening.
right,
That's been a real hard transition, you know, for me.
right. That's gonna be the discernment of the Spirit. Like, what do they need, God? You know, and I don't know, at 7, I don't know, y'all have to. Again, I've worked with adolescents for 20 years, so you're a little out of my league. But what I tell parents of adolescents is around 12 is you're really getting them to start to learn things for themselves, right? And to make decisions for themselves. At 7, they really don't have the brain to do that. Their brain's still very concrete thinking. But talking through it with them is always a good idea. Like, okay, so if they need a consequence, but later after it's over, listen, we need to talk about that. So, you know, you did this and then you got a consequence. Like, how could you have done that different? Right? Like, if you're upset, can you come home? Can you come home and tell me like what happened at school instead of like, but knowing that this is just a process. They're little. They need to be able to jack it just like we do. You know, giving them the freedom. But I think anytime you're talking to your kids and not just solving for them is going to be good. I mean, 2 maybe is a little different, but 7 there's some comprehension. So you can, but y'all help each other on that, because I might be a little bit off on that.
I just think what a gift it is to be able to know the truth and like get down. My daughter and I are literally like twins. You look at baby pictures, you cannot tell us apart, and we are in our own hearts as well. And so we, my husband and I, have been working with Kim and just through other things, learning some of this stuff about learning where, getting underneath, getting into that lie, and then what I do with Katie now, it happened just this week that I was able to help her through a situation with her dad, where I would have been the one dealing with her dad in that similar situation. I was able to talk to her about how to respond, or what are you believing here, what is the truth, what is daddy really saying that, what do you think he's saying, and it's just so free to not feel like we're on the opposite team, but we're on this mission together. Like figuring out our hearts and figuring out that part of the truth that comes from that. And I mean, most of us in here have little ones, and I'm about to have another slew of little ones. I saw the newsletter, my goodness.
Well, I see all the pregnant.
But, you know.
I see all the pregnant people.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, I got water out of the sink.
But, you know, what a place to be able to build that truth in yourself, because that's what we've been working on, is building it in ourselves, and to be able to put that into our children is, we're going to screw up.
Absolutely.
And it's telling them that, you know.
Jenny's given me an opportunity. She's my plant. No, really. She went through our Pathways to Life class. We offer the Pathways to Life class here at Creekside twice a year. So we offer it in the fall and we offer it in the spring. And what we do is we offer you the opportunity to disciple, to be discipled. And part of being discipled is understanding what part of that old man, because it says the old man is created in the deceitful lust, but put on the new man. Take off the old man, put on the new man that's created in Christ's righteousness, okay? The problem with the church is they do a really good job teaching us how to put on the new man, go to church, do your devotional, praise and worship, and all those things are great. We need to do that, but what we're doing is we're just putting all that on over the old woundings and the lies that we believe, and then we're walking around in our princess clothes and we're thinking, I still kind of stink. And so the Pathways classes allows you to kind of see what's happening. What are the lies? What are the roots? What are your character defects? What's happening in your life? It's a great thing. It does help in marriage. It helps in parenting, and Santos went through it. I heard she did a great job this morning. So anyway, so that's available in the fall and in the spring, but it's important. It's important to know what your stuff is, because it's going to knock up against your kids' stuff, because we live in a fallen world, so everybody has stuff.
I've learned that having a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 3-year-old, allowing your children to talk it out. Right now, Morgan and you are just like my oldest and myself. Because my eldest and myself, a friend of ours looked at both of us when we were yawning at each other and go, dang, y'all are just alike. And we both went, oh. But just, you know, I've learned to say, we're not going to do this right now because this is nothing but destroying each other.
Right.
This is not the right thing to be doing. And we walk away. I even do it with my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, go be mad in your room. Be mad all you want, but go. But we come together and we talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think you said earlier, let them identify their feelings. Because we live in a society where we're not allowed to feel. We just have to go along.
Right, keep going.
But I think that the best thing to do is to talk to your kids in any shape, form, or manner about a situation that's happened at school or that it's happened at home or church or the mall, wherever. Talk to them about it because it gives your children some self-empowerment along with yourself if you've never had it.
Right.
Because you're able to say, this is who I am, and this is how I feel, and this is why I feel it.
Right.
And they can learn the tools to express that to other people and not be doormats.
Exactly. You're teaching them emotional health, which is going to be super important as they move into relationships and being a roommate and someday being a spouse. All of that comes into play. You're teaching all of that now, which you think, oh my God. But that is what you're doing. You're teaching them how to respond to people, right? And being able to share how they feel and what they think is an important thing. So if you're always shutting that down, especially if it doesn't agree with you, that's not such a great thing.
And if you do it in a godly way, and you bring scripture and lessons into it, they learn how to be secure, not only in themselves, but secure in Christ.
In Christ, right, which is what we want more than anything.
So you're okay with, you know, letting your children know at an early age, you know, like you hurt mommy's feelings, and this is how mom, you know, this is how mommy feels. Do you want somebody to make you feel?
No, I'm probably not okay with that.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Because then I'm okay with saying, mommy's mad, but if she can't, or your child, like until they hit like, depends on your kid, 11, 12, 13, 14 even, they can't put themselves in somebody else's shoes. They don't have the empathetic, their brain doesn't do abstract thinking. So even if they say, yeah, I know, I would feel bad, they're just telling you that because that's what they want you to hear. They really don't get that, truly, okay? So it's okay to say mommy's angry or mommy's sad, but not you hurt my feelings at that age, because you're giving them, there is time for that, but not when they're little, right? Like you have to teach that as you go along, right? Your behavior is going to have positive or negative consequences depending on what it is, right? So be careful with the you hurt mommy's feelings, because that's it can be a little bit manipulative, because then you're saying like if you do that again, like you don't want to do that again because it hurts mommy's feelings, instead of like why does it hurt your feelings? Like what if it's just me, that's outside of what God wants you to do. So that's why we're not because it hurts my feelings, but because that God, He wants us to love everybody. You see, there's a difference there. But as they get older, then you can step into the whole thing, like when you say this to me, right, it hurts my feelings. Right, I'm a human being and it hurts my feelings. Do I manipulate them in that way? No, but they do need to know that hurts my feelings. But I have feelings, but I don't put that too much on them, because really, I don't need anything from them. I don't need you to love me. I don't need you to, now I can give you consequences for your disrespect or for whatever you say, but that's a hard one. I'm just really kind of stuck, because there's this fine line there that I can't really, I'm not having a good.
That's a bad mommy sign for my 4.5-year-old.
There you go.
And,
well, usually when
she taped it on me, like a kick-me sign.
I'll be a little spunky.
And she's adopted.
Okay, so you got some bigger things going on there, right?
And she knows that, and
right.
And we're okay with that. And so, and we've all, we go to church here. She's always come as a place where she wasn't giving up. It was somebody loved you.
But does she have some attachment and stuff?
It's an open adoption, but she doesn't really know who that other person is. If you tell her, she'll go, oh, okay. And
So she doesn't have an attachment problem, like she's attached to you.
Oh, no, oh, no, I'm the mom.
Okay.
And obviously the bad mom.
Most of the time when we're being the bad mom, that's really when we're being the good mom.
Okay, and so. you
So
know,
don't feel,
like
don't
when
take
she-
that personal.
Yeah. And when she-
That's a badge of honor, really, you ought to wear it.
And, you know, she goes, Mommy, why, I thought you threw that away, and I was like, well, you know, I did, but I kind of want to, I want to keep it. And when I told her this, I was like, first of all, no, that's not cool.
Right,
And second thing, you know,
exactly.
and I get to the point where it's like, that hurt, you know, stuff like that.
Right, hurts.
People's feelings.
Yeah, it does.
And so when I'm, you know, kind of going at that, and she's 4.5, and she knows what it's like by herself.
Right.
So it's, that's why I asked that, trying to get down into that.
Yeah, I would probably say like next time, please, why don't you come and talk to me about that? Like, that's what I would rather do.
Okay, and I let her get angry, and I'll tell her, if you're frustrated, you go ahead, and that's why she drew this.
And that's why she
The other
drew
day,
it.
she was like, oh, and I was like, go ahead and be frustrated, that's okay.
Right, it's okay.
But, you know, she doesn't hit.
She called you a name, so that's not great.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta like deal with that. Like, there's a way to be frustrated, and then there's a way that's not a great way to be frustrated, right? So calling names or hitting someone, that's not the way. We gotta teach you a different way to do that, because you are gonna get frustrated, but we gotta teach her the tools, like, what do you do? Well, do you need to go and like hit your pillow, or do you need to run around the block? I used to make my kids ran the cul-de-sac all the time. People in my neighborhood were like, what are they doing? And bawling their heads off. I mean, just saw them running that cul-de-sac. But what that did was it allowed them, they didn't get to stop running until they could talk normally. If they were still angry, they had to keep running. But it took out that angst, that, like after they ran it out. You know, she's old enough to run. Because like that's a way, like you've got frustration, go run the cul-de-sac, right? And then let's talk when she's.
Because that's what happened, is
The angst.
she was acting ugly, and I said, then think of your playroom and just sit there for a little bit. She did, came back out and bad, and I'm like, well, think of.
She wasn't really ready.
No, she, you know, did some creative artwork. So,
Running in calisthenics is always a really, really great thing because it does. We did jumping jacks and all kinds of stuff in our house.
For older kids too, instead of saying, you hurt my feelings, well, what are your feelings? You should say something like that. When you do this, that makes, this is what I'm feeling. This is, I feel sad. Don't say you hurt my feelings. This makes me feel sad, this makes me feel this way or that way. Explain what your feelings are. Because they have the same feelings, and they can relate to that rather than just saying, well, you hurt my feelings.
Okay.
My response at this moment is pretty 3-year-old, and I can't really do it right now. So, I mean, like I think I try to escape.
Yeah.
How do I do that? I do this. He gets out too.
Right.
So, I address it, but also have that over so it's not escapist.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well,
Run
because
away.
right, you have to be purposeful in your time with them. You have to make sure that every day you have time with them. Like there was a long until sister girl. Is that a girl? Sister girl came in. You know what I mean? So that's a big transition for him, and he needs to know that he's still loved and valued outside of her. Right? So if you're always putting her in front of him, he's not going to be happy about that. Our flesh does not like that. But if you say to him, remember at 1 o'clock every day, you and mommy have time. We're going to do that today. I need you to wait right now because I'm feeding her or whatever you're doing. We're going to have our time.
And like, he likes to destroy me at all. Like, just wait and you get more time with me.
Right, exactly. It's a control. That's a power. That's power.
But my thing is if I have a question or he's doing something, how do I say, do I just, can I say that? It's like, you know, we're not willing to do that in a few minutes, I need a minute, like.
Yeah, and you can say, if you continue to do that, there's gonna be a consequence. Absolutely, at 3, you can most definitely say that. Right now, you can give him a, bait and switch him, so like he's doing whatever he's doing, and you need him to do, you can say, listen, you can go read a book or whatever, build your blocks or whatever, and then I'll get with you, right? Or, if you keep doing what you're doing, when I get done feeding her, there will be a consequence. And it's always about the choice, right? So you can give him 2 choices that you like. Never give him a choice you don't want. Always that you like, and then, but because at 3, like he wants to be able to make a choice, right? So if he's screaming and waking her up, if she wakes up, then there'll be a consequence for that, not because she's first, but because she's little, and in our house, we have to take care of everybody, right? It has to be a safe place for everybody, babies need sleep. So it's not just about her, it's about any baby that's in your house. You understand? Like, if babies need sleep, has to be a safe place for everybody in the house. Oh, you got, hey, prizes.
Yeah, well, thank you, if you guys have more questions, but thank you, Kim. Just real quick, I know there was a few questions about leadership, like what positions we need. If you guys have that question, if that's